What's going on, everyone? Stevo Supremo here, and I am back again with another video. And today I am wanting to talk about Diablo 4, one of my most anticipated games of the year. Of the past, like 5 years, I've been waiting for this game. It is finally in open beta form, so everyone can enjoy it, and it's coming out later on this year. I cannot wait. So I want to get into the open beta and talk about that and my feelings and impressions of what I'm getting from the game so far. Now, first and foremost, I will say I did get to play the closed beta at the end of last year, and I do not believe we can talk about that. I still think that's under NDA. You can't talk about anything from the closed beta because there's stuff in that beta form we got that is not in this open public beta that we got to experience. So I'll make sure not to talk about any of that, but I am going to point out one thing that I had concerns with the closed beta that looks like it seems improved in the open beta. I'll get into that, and that's the reason why I actually waited to play this beta on this weekend rather than the early access weekend because I did not pre-order it. I came away from the closed beta with some concerns. I know it was early build of the game, but I wasn't having as much fun in it as I was having in D3. So that concerned me. And, I'm a D3 baby. That's where I got my start in Diablo when that game first came out. And I love D3 to death. It's one of my top games of all time. And I know people who love D2 probably scoff at the notion of me saying that, but I didn't play D2 when it came out, so I didn't have that experience that you guys might have had. I started with D3, so that's my Diablo. It's D3. So going into 4, I was anxious to see how they were going to improve on it and where they were going to make their changes. And first and foremost, you can't say anything, but I mean, this game is just gorgeous. It is just flat out beautiful. The darker tone that the game has, I know that's something Diablo purists like really wanted to go back to, and even me coming from D3, like it's good to see like the darker mood and atmosphere of this game and the builds of this game, how they incorporate their cathedrals, the villages all run down and just everything dark, and the mood of the game is incredible. But again, just visually, this game looks so good, and it's unfortunate because I think isometric RPGs or action RPGs, like you get taken for granted sometimes how pretty the game can look because you're so busy trying to get from one place to the other to fulfill a quest or just get the mission done. And a lot of times in these games, we're just looking at our mini maps. That's a big problem, I think, in action RPGs where we find ourselves looking at a map more than we look at the actual screen of our gameplay because there's dungeons we're having to go through. And that's something that I still think D4 needs to work on is we have our little mini map, but it's kind of nice. Like D2 kind of did that. I loved how D2 had that kind of overview map that you can put over your screen while you're playing. And we really haven't had that in any other game because in D3 you couldn't really move while that map was up unless I just never figured out how you could. And you can't do it here either. When you open your map on this screen, it takes up the whole screen. There's no map that you can have open while you're moving. So you're either looking at that top right hand corner, making sure you're going the right way to get to your target, or you're looking at the big map that's taking up your screen. So we don't get to see a lot of the land and the visuals, but if you take your time and look at it, it's gorgeous. Just the details they put in everything is beautiful. The way trees are crafted, especially like the dead trees with all the branches, just looking all ominous and spooky. When you're going to these old cathedrals or churches and just looking at the statues of the stories that even the statues around the world is telling, it's incredible. I won't get too much into the story, but there's one cathedral you're going in to talk to this fallen angel, and while going in there, seeing the story of the paintings on the wall and the different statues of him within this cathedral are just awesome. Like, take your time to enjoy just the beauty of this game and the not even the world, but like the character designs themselves, the movement of how they move, how they're acting out their combat skills. Like it just looks so fluid. It's incredible. And speaking of the characters, that's where I kind of had one of my bigger issues that I wanted to say the difference with the closed beta. When playing that closed beta, the speed of the game felt off. It just felt really slow. And I know in any early game, you kind of need to have that slower feeling because you need to have that character growth over time that makes you feel like, all right, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting faster. Now I'm starting to blast through levels. You don't want to start your character out way too overpowered or anything like that too soon in the game. But something still felt off about the speed of my character and of the game. And that's where, I mean, this open beta, I'm not really getting that feeling at all. Character speeds feel fluid, the combat feels faster and better. So I don't know if that's just something, maybe since I was playing a barbarian in the closed beta, and I went and mainly played a rogue this time around with the open beta, and rogues are naturally just going to be the quicker character. But even when dabbling back on with a barbarian for a little bit, it seems like they are faster. Attack swings are faster, combat's faster. Your character seems like it moves a tad bit faster even during its walking. So it just feels good now. Like it feels like it's at that good spot of character movement for me. And people are probably like, "Well, what's the big deal with character movement?" It's just something I got used to in D3, especially being at the end game so often and your character's so fast. It's kind of tough, like doing that whole beginning part being super slow. And in D3, your character still kind of had some movement skills that could adapt to make you a little bit faster. And yeah, that's in this game now too. So it feels good. Character movement feels good. Character combat feels incredible. Even though this beta only goes up to level 25, we're able to see the whole skill trees of a character and kind of see a build or plan out a build if you want. And it just feels good. Combat feels really good. And that's another thing I'll talk about right now is that combat. As you can see on the screen, you're seeing controller inputs. This is actually being captured from a PS5. Now I mainly played all the open beta on my computer. Only problem was when trying to capture footage from that computer, I'm playing the game in OBS at the same time. There seems to be some type of compatibility issue, or it just bogs down the computer too much. I have a 3070 in my computer, and even it was giving that problems. The game would kind of slow down, and OBS would stutter. So the only workaround was to plug in my PS5 and capture the footage on that. But to my surprise, the cross progression is actually already implemented in the game. I did not think they would do that in an open beta, but sure enough, I turn on my PS5 and there's my character from the computer. So that is awesome. And it was a seamless transition because I mostly played this rogue character with a controller. Yes. After playing all of D3 on mostly on PC with a mouse and keyboard, and I would dabble on consoles playing it as well. I own it on like 3 different systems, but it always felt just way better with mouse and keyboard for me. This rogue felt incredible with the controller. It just felt like I was playing an action hack and slash game with the controller and the abilities. And when going to mouse and keyboard trying to play the rogue, it did not feel as good just because it was a melee character. Now, when making my sorcerer, I did use mouse and keyboard for that because it just felt way better to play a ranged character with mouse and keyboard to get that good targeting on specific enemies with your spells and for movement to keep your distance and everything. But I mean, I'm gonna say it now. If you're gonna play a melee build in this game, I think controller is the way to go. It just feels so good. Combat and control feels so much better with the controller on a melee class. The only issue is, again, like I said, with range. It's kind of tough to target a specific enemy still when you're playing on controller with a ranged character. So I would highly recommend mouse and keyboard for them, but you couldn't go wrong with a controller for that either if you had to. So console players, it's cross play and cross progression. I don't think you're losing out on anything here because it feels incredible with the controller. Like hands down, like hats off to him for implementing that and making it feel so good. I know I'm not the only person to say that, so it's awesome. Now, so we are seeing some minor changes. You know, you got this open world here that we're getting to roam around and explore with these dungeons we can go in. And if you look into these dungeons, you can see you get certain rewards for completing the dungeons. Not only are you going in it trying to get that almighty nice loot drops from bosses and enemies in there, but a lot of these dungeons, once you clear them, you unlock a aspect or a power that goes into your new codex of power that you can now use to kind of enchant your gear with now. And if anyone comes from D3, you know, enchanting your gear and re-rolling it is one of the big things with trying to get a maxed out character with all the best stats. You're trying to find the correct gear with the correct stats on it and correct specialties in the item to make you all powerful. In this game, it seems like it's taken it a big step further. Like we can go to this new vendor and take out all these aspects from some of our gear, put it in our stash or inventory and hold on to it, and use that later on to put in another piece of gear. Like I know one of the aspects I have really wanted on this rogue was an aspect that makes my twisting blade, when it comes back to me, instead of just coming back to my person, it then hovers and does a circle around my body, dealing area damage around me. I really wanted to find that aspect. And since I did, I found it on a couple pieces of gear. I made sure to extract that aspect to have in my inventory for later in case I eventually needed to replace the piece of gear that has that aspect on it already. Boom, I can plug that back into the new piece I got and I'm still rolling. So I really like that concept of this codex of power, and you're having this stash of codexes that you're going to permanently have unlocked that you can use on your character. But then there's other powers you can extract from gear that you can therefore put into your gear. And of course, you can re-roll the stats and stuff on your game again. And it seems like right from the beginning, no leveling up of trainers, it seems. The only thing I'm seeing that we have to kind of level up as we progress throughout the game so far is our potions and stuff like that. Now later on, when you guys can actually use the mounts in the game, there might be, I don't know if there's going to be speed leveling in that. If you have to be a certain level, maybe you get faster mounts or something. But so far, it seems like just the herbalist area with your potions is the only thing we have to worry about kind of leveling up and powering up as we level in the game. So even though we are only getting a early peek at the game to level 25, we're able to still kind of foresee what the in-game future could kind of be like. Like we still don't know. Are there going to be rifts and stuff we're going to be farming? Like what's the in-game going to be? Like that's what everyone's kind of waiting and clamoring to see. But we can kind of tell already we're going to have this Paragon system we're going to be working with, which we still don't really know. I think there was some kind of leak about it. I didn't look into it, but it's more of, okay, we have these aspects and codexes of power. How is that going to incorporate into our final build? And the other thing with the stats, like what's going to be the best stats for each piece of gear you're using and what's going to replace each stat. That's one of the things I couldn't figure out when trying to change the stats on my gear, is what was it going to be replaced with. I did not know in Diablo 3 a certain slot of stat that you're trying to replace could be specific, that it's going to change it to something else, and it would show you like this is what you have the chance of getting onto the side. I didn't see that anywhere in this game, so I was like re-rolling gear not knowing what I even had a chance to get for the slot I was re-rolling. That was a little bit annoying, but again, beta, and it might be in the final build. But other than that, it's been a blast playing through it. I guess the last thing that I'll talk about is the world boss fight, which was awesome. I wanted to try to capture footage of that, but that's what I was trying to capture on my PC, and it just was not going well. That was a ton of fun. The world boss fights are going to be an awesome thing in this game. If I think if they can control the participation in it. And that was one issue that we were having during the boss fight. As much fun as it is, you have the mechanics of the fight were really fun to try to learn. And again, coming me being a big World of Warcraft fan back in the day and loving that game, it gave more of that MMO boss battle fight, which was really awesome. Like it took a lot of coordination and learning attack patterns and knowing what to do. Problem was, it's a level 25 world boss, and it's only allowing 12 of us to go in and fight to try to keep it, like a balanced fight. You just don't want 100 people taking out the world boss. But even though it's a level 25 boss, having level 7s and 13s come into the fight who can do nothing to the boss. They cannot affect the boss at all. And they're just getting one shotted and killed. And it might be two of us level 25s trying to fight the boss ourselves because people are coming into the fight. So I think they need to figure out some kind of system where there's got to be a minimum level. If there's a world boss that is level 50, like you got to cut the entry off for it at like level 40 or level 45 or something. Like just don't let level 35s come in there and hamper the fight because they're not being able to do anything. Now again, maybe in the final release of the game you could be level 35 and you're so decked out that you can help and kill the boss. I don't see that happening, but I hope there's a way to kind of gatekeep that so people who aren't too extremely low will make the fight harder. Now, luckily, I was able to successfully beat the boss every time I did it because those lobies, it looked like they were eventually just leaving out or dying out, or people who were higher level were giving up because we weren't killing the boss. And you would have new players like recycling come in. It's one of the things where if you could kill your boss quick enough, log out, log back in, you might be able to get into another fight for the boss again. And I believe that's what was happening with at least two of my fights. New people came in and helped killed it, and then I even did it on one of mine. Our fight, that's the first time I ever fought the boss, is when I had all those a level 7, a 13, a 12. Like everyone was in their teens. I was the only max level character. I left the fight, and when I relogged, I was with another group where we were all 25s. And boom, we wiped the floor with the boss and we got all the loot. But it was just a fun experience. I just hope they clean that up some with that fight and getting into it. But other than that, it looks like, I mean, I'm excited now. The game is actually pre-ordered now for me. The only problem is I really want to stream this game, and if it's having the issues with the PC, it looks like I might have to go the console route for streaming it. But I do not mind buying the game twice over. I can buy it for me to play on a computer, and my son, he can play with me on console, and we can co-op it together. It is shaping up to be like an incredible game. Hopefully, it doesn't get hampered down by any type of microtransactions. I know they say the microtransactions and stuff like that for the game are just for the battle passes and it's just for cosmetics. That's another thing I was worried about. Like, is my character going to look ugly if I don't get a battle pass? Because one of the cool things with customization and in Diablo is being able to transmog your gear, and it's you got to look good. You got to look good while playing. And if all the cool armor and stuff is locked behind a paywall, that would kind of stink. But so far, just from the initial loot we're seeing from the characters, it's some pretty cool looking stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait now. It's going to stink that we're going to have to wait a couple months to get the full release of the game. But I'm excited. If you haven't played it, I think that goes on until Monday. So you still have a day probably to get out there, or half a day to try to experience this open beta if you want to. It was a lot of fun. Man, Diablo 4. Years in the making. Diablo Immortal came out and crushed my soul with the direction it went with its pay to win. But it looks like Diablo 4 is going to redeem itself, so I can't wait. Looking forward to it. Anyways, that's my impressions, guys. If I missed anything, I'm sorry. I didn't want to ramble too long, and I've already went longer than I expected. So, if you played the beta, let me know what you think about it. What are you looking forward to? And yeah, Diablo 4, baby, it's here. It's right around the corner. Catch y'all in the next one.